Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be a really cool rec tag. I have never done this one before. I think it's new, circulating around YouTube, but I saw it and I had to do it because I feel like it's right up my alley, and that is a fantasy book recommendation tag. I saw Raven Haired Reader do it on her channel. I will link it down below, and I just thought it was a great idea, so I'm excited to get into it and give you some recommendations off of these questions. So let's get into it. But before we get started, if you haven't already, please give this video a thumbs up if you haven't. And of course, don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already.
If you like me, if you like books, and if you like book rec tags,
go ahead and hit that subscribe button. But without further ado, let's jump into the video. So the first question we have is, what book got you into fantasy romance for the first time? And that's an easy one. I feel like this is gonna be the same answer across the board for a lot of people, and that is going to be A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. I read this, I think, during quarantine. This book not only got me into fantasy romance, but it also got me back into reading. I had probably the biggest slump ever of my life, and I just didn't really take it that serious. I wasn't really making time for reading. This book just came at the best time, and ever since then, here we are.
here we are.
So yeah, this book is awesome. It's a new adult fantasy romance. If you haven't heard of it, it's a Beauty and the Beast retelling. It's one book in a series of many. It's ongoing and it's fantastic. We have fae, we have romance, we have enemies to lovers, we have love triangles.
This book is just so good for so many reasons.
So yeah, I don't really know what else to say about this series other than it's amazing, and if you haven't read it, read it. Question number 2 is, if I could pick one fantasy world to live in, to move to for the rest of your life, what would it be and why? That's an easy one for me. It is gonna be the world that Stephanie Garber created in her little universe here. We have Once Upon a Broken Heart and Caraval. These are within the same universe, so that's why I'm including both of these book series. More specifically though, Once Upon a Broken Heart and The Ballad of Never After. This book has just
Gripped my heart and soul.
I love this. This is probably my favorite book of all time now, this series specifically, and for good reason. The world that Stephanie Garber created in Caraval series and Once Upon a Broken Heart series, it's so magical, it's whimsical, anything is possible in these worlds, literally. Her storytelling with these books just grips you from page 1. It just transports you to this enchanting, magical world where there really are no limits. You can do whatever you want. The possibilities are just endless for like a happily ever after. And I feel like if I'm gonna move to like this magical world, I want security that I know I'm gonna get a happily ever after and not be in some like dark, dingy fantasy world with like war and fighting and battle and stuff. I just feel like this one seems a little more up my alley. It seems like I'm gonna have my happily ever after this book.
And maybe I will come across my own Jax, you know?
So yeah, definitely without like any hesitation, I would choose this. I think the world in here is actually called the Magnificent North. And there's a map as well. Yeah, I mean, come on. It says, welcome to Magnificent North here. I don't know if you guys can really see it that well, but if this map is any indication of how beautiful this world is, just pack up my bags now because we're moving. We're moving here. Next, the next question is, if I could marry one bookish hero or heroine, who would it be? And this is a fun question. I want to say Jax from Once Upon a Broken Heart and The Ballad of Never After. Is that toxic of me? I don't know, because technically he's a villain. He is a fate in this little magical world. The world is built up of fates, and they kind of just like rule the school, if you will. They do a lot of mischief. People think they're almost like myths at this point because they have been gone from the world for like a long time, but they're kind of living in plain sight, and Jax is one of them. I loved his character, and he has seen a lot of growth from book 1 to book 2, and now going into book 3, I'm really hoping we're gonna get some POVs with him, and we're gonna see him just really come out and prove himself to Evangeline and get, like, you know, the happily ever after we're looking for, that I'm looking for. So I probably shouldn't choose him. There's probably better options out there. Like, obviously, we got the Bat Boys from ACOTAR. We have Prince Castile from Blood and Ash. We have Prince Cardin, the Cool Prince. Like, there's a lot of characters we could choose from, right? But I think for me, my immediate answer, I'm just gravitating towards Jax. It could be one fantasy or magical creature. What would it be? I find this to be a very funny question because I've never considered this before. I think a lot of people are gonna say fae or fairies, but I'm gonna be very specific here, and I would choose the fairy characters from Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies. I feel like they're so fun, they're mischievous, they get into trouble. You have to like, there's different species, and in order to get to them, to find them, because they're like hidden, they're secluded, you have to like offer them like a loaf of bread or something, and then you can barter with them. They're just really cute, okay? And unlike the fae in like other books where they're like the main character, I feel like the fairies in Emily Wilde's a fairy book is just a little more like trickstery type of little creatures that I think are funny and kind of mysterious, and I like that about them.
I picture them to be tiny little things just scurrying around in this beautiful little cottagecore aesthetic, frolicking around in the field. Yeah, that's what I would do.
That's who I would be. If I could kill one fantasy romance character, I'm going to definitely offend some people here. I'm so sorry in advance, but Nesta from A Court of Silver Flames, this is like the last book currently in the ACOTAR World series. I'm sorry, but she's gotta go. She annoyed me from page 1 when we're introduced to her in the series to when we get her book. I just can't. I know it's technically like her redemption arc. I couldn't get by it. She still bothered me. And that's all I'm gonna say. If I have to choose somebody.
Right? If we're in a lineup, someone's gotta go. I'm sorry, Nesta, but I'm gonna choose you.
You had your chance and wasn't enough for me. What fantasy romance character would be my best friend in real life? We're gonna go back to ACOTAR here, and I'm going to choose Elaine because I just feel like her personality and mine would get along very well. She seems to be very cute, friendly, a girly girl, loves to be out in nature, and this is just a thought, a theory, if you will. If you have not read the series, then I'm sorry. I'm just gonna put a little snippet of a little spoiler thing, but I believe she belongs in the Spring Court, if you know what I mean. And I like the Spring Court. I'm not saying I like people in the Spring Court, but I'm saying in general, I love springtime. Her and I would get along very well somewhere like that, with like a garden, and yeah, and we could just chit chat, sip tea, have a cup of coffee, read some books. Yeah. What would be your fantasy weapon of choice?
It's gonna be poison for me.
And I'm only gonna say that because I have this, like, I get really grossed out easily by blood. Like, I cannot handle seeing blood for the life of me. It grosses me out. If you have a cut, just get far away. So I can't do a bow and arrow. I can't do a sword. I can't do daggers. We're just gonna be a poison girly. Don't cross me, because when you have your next cup of morning coffee, it may be your last. That's all I'm gonna say. Question number 8. Who is the sexiest fantasy romance character of all time? If we're going purely off of descriptions here, like how the author described a character, then I feel like the correct answer could only possibly be Rhysand from A Court of Mist and Fury, from ACOTAR. I don't know how it could be anyone else. However, I also found Jax from The Ballad of Never After to be pretty dashing, in my opinion. I have a lot of questions from his apparel, how he chooses to not do his hair, how he's always carrying an apple. Yeah. I know that probably doesn't sound sexy at all, but those are my choices. There's gonna be 2 in this category for me. I'm sorry, but I think the correct answer is Rhys. And then I think my answer is gonna be Jack's. Pick one fantasy book to burn. I feel bad saying this because book 1 I actually really liked, and book 2, and then after that the series just kind of went downhill. Don't even know if I'm gonna finish the series, but if we have to choose like a collective series, then it's going to be the From Blood and Ash series. Yeah, I liked book 1. Book 2 was good as well. It just, the series kind of tanked for me after that. So if I could burn just one specific book from that series, it would be book 4. But yeah, sorry. I feel really bad because I really liked Poppy and Prince Castile. But I'm sorry, this fantasy series, this world, it just had a lot more plot holes than I was anticipating as I progressed in this book series. And I'm not happy about it. I never talk about it on this channel because I don't really have much good things to say about it, really. Like, I feel like book 1 was for just a really good time, great banter, book 2 as well. But plot-wise, there's not much I can say, so I'm sorry, but this is gonna be kindling for me. Okay, this is question 10, and this one's gonna be really hard for me. I can only pick one fantasy book. It's the only book I'll ever be able to read again. What would it be?
This is really hard for me. Okay.
I've made my decision. It's gonna be The Ballad of Never After by Stephanie Garber. This is book 2 in the Once Upon a Broken Heart series. And yeah, you can see, like, I've made so many tabs here. I have so many highlights in this book. I've already reread it twice. I'm going to reread it again before the release of book 3. And honestly, like, if I'm stranded on an island and this is all I have for the rest of my life, it's gonna be okay. Because I have the Magnificent North, I have Jax, I have Evangeline, I have a beautiful story that is just so frustratingly beautiful. And yeah, if I would need to be transported somewhere, I'd like to have it be here. And if this is the only book I can read for the rest of my life, I think I can be okay. I think I can survive. As long as I have this book, I think I can survive. If I could recommend one fantasy romance book to a new reader in this genre, what would it be? This is gonna depend on, for me, this is gonna depend. So I'm gonna have 2 answers here. If you want a clean, like, no spice fantasy romance, you just are in it for maybe some banter, a good storyline, a slow burn, you don't really want to get into, you know, like, the intimate scene, like, you don't want that in your books, then I will recommend Once Upon a Broken Heart and The Ballad of Never After. I'm sorry I keep recommending these, but I mean, come on, this is their time to shine, okay? This book is beautiful because you do get a magical world. It's easy to understand without it being too simplistic or too complex. It's like right there in the middle. It's a page turner. It's not too big, so I feel like you can get through it pretty quickly and move on to book 2. Again, they're not too chunky like other fantasy books. You have really great character development here. We have a heroine named Evangeline Fox who is on a quest for true love, okay? And if that doesn't signal like the beginning of a beautiful fantasy romance book, then I don't really know how to help you here. Evangeline Fox is beautiful, she is innocent, she is pure, she's lovely, and she deserves happiness. We are on a quest for her happiness, and she receives the help, begrudgingly, of Jax, who is a fate. He is the Prince of Heart. His kisses are deadly, and she makes a bargain with him in order for his help. So that's all I'm going to say about this book series. But like I said earlier, this is clean fantasy romance. It is YA, so it's young adult. I feel like anyone can read this and enjoy it. It's so beautiful. The ending of book 2 is heartbreaking, but there's hope because book 3 is coming out this year, and I'm so excited. So yeah, if you want a clean fantasy romance book to get into the genre, this is the book to try out. However, if you are really into romance, like you're a big romance reader and you're like, I want mostly romance and just a tiny little sprinkling of plot here, then I'm going to recommend to you A Touch of Darkness by Scarlett St. Clair. This is a lot of romance, and I'm gonna say it's fantasy because it is and it's like a Greek mythology retelling. So it's Hades and Persephone's like love story. It is one in a trilogy. Again, it's not too chunky, right? So it's easy to get through. It's a page turner, very dramatic. You're gonna have like the dark, twisty romance, right? We have the villain and we have like the sweet little girl. She's like the princess or goddess of the harvest or something. And it's a good time. Like,
it's a good time.
we have two different recommendations here. This is not to say that this is like my favorite book, but if you are interested in more romance, less fantasy world, like not a lot of world building, then I think this would be a good option for you. I could also recommend ACOTAR series, but I feel like it's just overplayed, it's overdone, although I think you will really like it too. So tied. Actually, you know what? Scratch that. This is gonna be tied with this one. Okay, if you're okay with a little more fantasy, right, then check this one out. If you just want a lot, like 80% romance and like 20% fantasy world, then Touch of Darkness is your girl. And then if you don't want spice at all, you just want beautiful magical world building, you like fantasy, but you don't really want that much romance, you just kind of want like a little sprinkling, then Once Upon a Broken Heart is what you need to is what you need to read like ASAP. Beautiful. And that is it, guys. That is my fantasy romance book rec tag. This was so fun to do. I love being able to hype up some specific fantasy books. Obviously, these aren't all my faves. I think I left out some really good ones in my opinion, but for these questions, I'm happy with my answers, okay? So thank you so much for watching. I would love to know what your recommendations are in the comments down below. Please let me know. Go ahead and make your own book rec tag, you know, either make a video, make it put in the comments. I want to watch it, I want to hear about it, let's talk about it. If you agree or disagree, I would love to know why or why not. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. Until next time, I will see you in my next video. Mwah. Bye!